Good afternoon, students. And today we're going to be doing subject-verb agreement. So when you have a singular subject, that takes a singular verb. If you have a plural subject, that takes a plural verb. So every time you use a sentence in English, your noun and your verb have to agree in gender and number. And so I'm going to go over subject-verb agreement in today's lesson. So here I have today's lesson right here. So I'm going to go over, let me give you an example. I'll be there in a second. There we go. Basic subject-verb agreement. My friend, that's a singular subject, lives, that's a singular verb, in Boston, prepositional phrase. My friends, plural subject, then singular verb, live in Boston. My brother and sister, plural subject, hence a plural verb, live in Boston. So two or more subjects connected by and require a plural verb. Every man, woman, and child needs love. Each book and magazine is listed in the card catalog. When you have indefinite pronouns like everything, everybody, anybody, nobody, somebody, each and every, that's always followed by a singular verb. So you would have every man, woman, and child needs love. Each book and each magazine is listed in the card catalog. So every and each are always followed immediately by singular verbs. In this case, even when there are two or more nouns connected by and, the verb is singular. So with indefinite pronouns like nobody, anybody, somebody, each and every, even when you have the verb and, it's always singular. The book on political parties is interesting. So here, the book is the subject of the sentence. On political parties is a prepositional phrase, so it's not the subject. So here you have a singular subject, book, and then singular verb is. My dog, as well as my cats, likes cat food. And as well as my cats is a prepositional phrase. So therefore, the subject of the sentence is my dog. And therefore, singular subject takes singular verb, likes cat food. The book that I got from my parents was very interesting. That I got from my parents is a dependent clause. So therefore, the subject of that sentence, the book. So therefore, singular subject, book, takes singular verb, was. The book was very interesting. And that I got from my parents is not the subject of the sentence. It is a dependent clause. It is an adverb clause. So let's go back. Sometimes a phrase or clause separates a subject from its verb. These interrupting structures do not affect basic agreement. For example, in the interrupting prepositional phrase on political parties, does not change the fact that the verb is must agree with the subject book. The subject and verb in the book that I got from my parents are separated by an adjective clause. But still, even though you have an adjective clause, that I got from my parents, okay, even though the subject and the verb are separated by an adjective clause, the subject is still singular, book, which takes a singular subject, book, then takes the singular verb, was. Growing flowers is her hobby. A gerund used as the subject of the sentence always requires a singular verb. So gerunds are ing words, in other words, words that end in ing, used as a noun, used as a subject or an object. Like shopping is a lot of fun. Eating at a restaurant is expensive. So whenever you have a gerund subject, it's always a singular verb. So these are the basic rules of subject-verb agreement. singular subject takes a singular verb, plural subject takes a plural verb. Indefinite pronoun takes singular verbs, and here you have singular subjects with a prepositional phrase interrupting the subject and the verb, and it still takes a singular verb. Here you have a dependent clause that I got from my parents, interrupting the subject and the verb book and was. And so here the singular subject book takes the singular verb was. So that's basic subject-verb agreement. Let's go back to here. So singular verb agreement using expressions of quantity. Some of the book is good. So book is singular subject. Book takes the singular verb is. Some of the books are good. Plural subject books takes plural verb are. Plural subject, a lot of my friends are here. So plural subject friends takes plural verb are. Plural subject pennies takes plural verb are. 2/3 of the pennies are mine. One of my friends is here. Okay, so whenever you use one of, each of, every one of, that's just like with indefinite pronouns, every man, woman, and child is. So every time you have each, every, one of, each of, every one of, everyone, everything, everybody, somebody, something, nobody, nothing, all those indefinite pronouns all take a singular verb, and it makes it a singular subject. So one of my friends is here. Each of my friends is here. Every one of my friends is here. And also none of, nobody, nothing also takes a singular verb. None of the boys is here. The number of students in the class is 15. Okay, of students is not the subject. So here, the number is the subject of the sentence, okay? And that is why the number is a singular subject, which takes the singular verb is. In other words, one number, the number. Whereas a number of students, a number of means many in English. So notice the number just means one number, okay? Whereas a number of students, that's many students, were late for the class. Therefore, when you have a number, then it takes plural. When it's a the number, then it takes a singular verb. So a number takes a plural verb, and the number takes a singular verb. So the number is the subject, and therefore a number of is an expression of quantity, meaning a lot of. Okay, I said many, a lot of, many. Same thing, more than one. So therefore it's followed by a plural verb. So a plural subject takes a plural verb. And so here, subject-verb agreement. There are 21 students in my class. There's a fly in the room. So 20 students, that's the subject. So you got more than one student, so 20 students, plural subject, takes the plural verb are. There are 20 students in my class. There's a fly in the room. So singular subject fly takes a singular verb is. So notice how in these kind of sentences, a noun comes after the verb. Normally in English, it's subject, verb, object. But when you have there are, there is, which is called an expletive or an expletive, it has no meaning as a vocabulary word. It introduces the idea that something exists in a particular place. So the pattern you need to learn is there plus be plus subject plus expression of place. And be is the verb. Okay, so there plus verb plus subject. So therefore, if you have a plural subject, then be is going to be were. If you have a singular subject, then be is going to be us. Is. Okay, not us. It's going to be is. There are 7 continents. So sometimes the expression of place is omitted when the meaning is clear. the implied expression of place is clearly in the world. So where is it? It's in the world. So here 7 continents is the subject, so that's plural subject, and then plural verb are. So there is a book on the shelf. There are some books on the shelf. There's some books on the shelf. This is very informal English. In very informal spoken English, some native speakers use a singular verb when the subject is plural. This use of this form is fairly frequent, but it's not grammatically correct. So this is not correct English. You don't say there's some books on the shelf. You're supposed to say there are some books on the shelf. So you can't always go by what native speakers say in English. So when you write your academic research papers, you have to write correctly. There are some books on the shelf. So subject-verb agreement has some irregularities. Sometimes a proper noun that ends in S is singular. In the examples, if the noun is changed to a pronoun, the singular pronoun it is used, not the plural. Okay, so what this means is that when you have a word, even though it ends in S, but it looks like it's one entity. In other words, United States is one country. Therefore, it's considered a singular subject since it's one country. So the United States as one country, singular subject, is big. Therefore, singular subject United States is big. The Philippines, also one country, okay, or one island. One country consists of more than 7,000 islands. So here the Philippines, because it's the name of one country, so therefore it's singular. If I were to say the Philippines, France, and Spain, then you're going to have a plural subject, which would take a plural verb. But if you simply have Philippines, then it becomes the Philippines is. If you simply have the United States, then United States is a singular subject and becomes United States is. The United Nations also is one organization. Therefore, the United Nations is. Okay, so anything that looks like one entity, even though they have an S at the end, still becomes singular. That's why you got words like economics, one subject, is. Mathematics, with an S, is. The family is. Family and police, the police is. The police officers are. Okay, so when you're talking about different officers or police officers, then it becomes a plural subject. But if we're just talking about the police as one entity, then it's singular. Then it becomes, that's known as a collective noun, in case you're wondering. And then when it's a collective noun like that, then even though it looks plural, it takes a singular verb. That's some of the irregularities in subject-verb agreement. Same thing with Sears, also has an S, but it's one brand of a department store. J.C. Penney's is. Macy's is. Actually, sadly, Macy's is closing because everybody uses Amazon, but that's a whole nother thing. The news is singular. Diabetes is, because it's one disease. Okay, even though it ends in an S, it takes a singular verb. 8 hours of sleep is. So 8 hours of sleep is seen as one entity of 8 hours. Therefore, it becomes a singular subject and takes a singular verb. $10 is, because it's one entity of $10, and therefore it becomes is. 5,000 miles. So if you take that as one entity, then 5,000 miles is too far to travel. 2 and 2 is 4. So when we have addition, we use is. So 2 and 2 is 4. 2 and 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 is or equals 4. 5 times, the reason why it's always singular is because it's taken as one entity. 2 and 2 taken as one entity equals 4 or is 4. So is and equals is the same thing. And then for plural, you would have these people are from Canada. The police. The police is a problematic word. Sometimes if you talk, it depends on the context. If the context means that you're talking about all of the police at once, then you could use it as a singular. But if you're talking about the police, but as different members of the police, then you could use plural. And it's up to the writer to determine which one he wants to use in order to give that special nuance to the sentence, okay? Cattle are. So cattle, that's more than one cow is cattle, so that's why you have it's plural. And so people, police, and cattle, even though they don't end in S, but they're plural nouns. And so therefore, people means more than one person, so it takes a plural noun. Cattle, more than one cow, and it takes a plural noun. And then nationalities, like English, the French, the Chinese, the Japanese, is, okay? So here you have some nouns can mean an so English is spoken, Chinese is his native language. So when you're talking about language, then it is always singular because it's one Chinese language or one English language. The French language or French is easy to learn. Russian is hard to learn. English is is spoken in many countries. And then if you want to talk about the English people, if you add the, then it becomes the English people are. The Chinese people are. So as soon as you add a definite article, the, then it becomes plural verb. The poor have. The rich get richer. So all of this takes a plural noun because it's understood the English people drink tea. But sometimes we don't say the word people, it's understood. So therefore that's why you have the English people, plural subject, drink, plural verb. The Chinese people, or the Chinese, plural subject, and then plural verb, have. So basically the same thing is if you have a non-count noun or a collective noun like the United States, Philippines, the news, mathematics, diabetes, then it's always singular. And if you have things that look like one unit, like 8 hours of sleep, $10, or 5,000 miles, then it becomes singular. If you have the English people, the Chinese people, the poor people, that's plural. And then those people, the police and cattle, when you have plural nouns, that's also a plural verb. And it's only a singular verb if you're talking about something that's one, entity, an entity of one, such as the English language, the Chinese language, the United States, the Philippines. Anything that's one or a singular subject takes a singular verb. So if I had students, I would actually, this was something I would do with students. So the United States, so here you have one country has a population around, well, this is really old, it's more like 350 million. So this is a very old book. So the news about Mr. Hogan, the news is a collective noun as one entity. Therefore, the news is. Massachusetts is one state, even though it looks plural, is a state. Physics is one subject. Therefore, physics seeks, singular. Statistics is also one subject. Statistics is. The statistics in that report, well, the statistics are, okay? 50 minutes is, because 50 minutes is one entity and therefore is. $20 is also one entity and therefore is. 6 and 7 is or equals 13. Many people in the world, so that's a lot of people, do not have enough to eat. Do is the plural verb. The police, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about the police officers, then it becomes the police officers are. Or if you're talking about all of the police as one entity, the police is. So different grammar books will give you different, so that's up to interpretation. Rabies is one disease. Rabies is. The English people are, therefore plural. English, the English language, is not my native language. Many Japanese people, and therefore it's plural, commute to their places of work. Portuguese is, and that's because one language, somewhat similar to Spanish, isn't it? The poor people are helped by government programs. The effect, so that's one effect, of a honeybee's sting depends on that person's susceptibility. So singular subject, the effect, takes singular verb, depends. Most people are, because you have a plural verb. So now you understand how you do subject-verb agreement. Okay, and here you can do this. If I was in my class, when I used to teach face-to-face, we used to go over all of this one by one, and we would play games and see who could, kind of like Jeopardy. And it used to be a lot of fun. All right, nouns. So remember that a noun is a person, place, or thing. And I will be doing another, that's right, I have to end this video. So this ends this video on subject-verb agreement. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about nouns and different kinds of nouns in Chapter 7. So I hope that you have a basic understanding of how to do subject-verb agreement, and that this helps you write your papers. So that ends this video on subject-verb agreement. If you have any questions, you can always email me.